Hello, this is Tim, and this is going to be a video response about players getting off track, not doing what you want, being very stubborn, that sort of thing. Sorry, I don't know the user's handle at the moment. I'm without an internet connection, so I'm just doing this video when I have the chance. But it will be a video response to that person. And when I get home, I'll make sure to upload it, do it right. But anyway, the basic question was, what do you do when the party goes the wrong way, or they don't listen to any of your hints and they do their own thing? Well, perhaps it's the question itself that needs addressed, needs to be talked about. And the reason I say that is that the way that I prep eventers for a campaign is probably a little bit different than I do it for one-shots. I think the way I do it for one-shots is more of what you're looking for. But let me talk about the campaigns first. So, you have a campaign made up of various sessions of playtime. And perhaps you've done some prep work for that session. And the PCs choose every option they can, pick that goes against what you had planned, goes away from the area you want them to go to. These sorts of things. This problem also can be fixed in a way, but it's also like cheating. There's the illusion of choice option, which raises some red flags with various people for good reasons sometimes. But let's say this is a dungeon. You want them to go left, they go right. Who are the players to know? How are they going to know if you switch the encounters? They aren't, but I don't usually like to do that. I really don't. Especially in a dungeon setting, I tend to make large dungeons, and for me, it's really interesting to see what order they go through the various rooms, what way they go. There might be an optimal way to do it. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that. It's usually, they make all the choices to get to like the harder encounters first, and I don't see anything wrong with just having them encounter those things and go, whoa, okay, we need to step back and figure out what we're doing because we're outmatched. I think that running away is always an option. So I don't have any problem leaving the dungeon as is, the way I designed it. But again, there's a lot of things that go into that, like how much empty space have you had? I just did a video about wandering monsters, that sort of thing. But let's say it's not so cut and dry. Let's say that it's a wilderness encounter or a city game that you're running. There are lots of options. So many options that you have, I don't even think you can plan for them. And I don't think you should. That's more my opinion on the matter, where the way that I prep is that I focus on setting and I focus on NPCs. If I know the setting inside and out, if I just take the time to read up on it, if it's a published setting, or if it's a setting that I made, to craft it with love and skill and just know where everything is, how everything works, then that, for me, is a good portion of my prep. To just know so much about the area, the environment, the culture, the races, all of that. If you just know so much about that, it's not hard at all to improv. And you just fall back on that information you already have. With NPCs, like I said, I like to prep those. You know their motivations, their goals, what they're striving for. As a GM, if you keep track of time in a logistical manner, you have an idea on what kind of goals they want to accomplish and how much time it should take to get to those goals. Let's say the players never even talk to these people. Maybe that's the whole idea, is that they're going to talk to these people and stop something. Well, let's say they go the opposite way that you want. They don't talk to these people. Well, you follow that timeline and you're like, okay, well, they didn't stop these evil cultists. They didn't find out about them. So 50% of the city is now going to be killed by some necromantic plague, that they summoned forth by, performing some ritual that they could have stopped, but they didn't. So in a way, players might go, oh, okay, wait a minute, we didn't even talk to those people. How on earth are we supposed to stop them if we didn't even know about them? Well, It's just something that's going to happen no matter what the PCs do, and that should be a good thing. It should be something that shows the players that there are lots of people out there in the setting, and they're all doing their own thing. Just because they don't bump into them doesn't mean that they're not going to still keep doing their own thing. So you need to think about that as a GM. If they don't go the way you want for your campaign, the campaign is going to be different. It's going to end differently than you want. And you just have to remember that this isn't a script. You're not writing a novel. This isn't a screenplay. This isn't a play. It is interactive. And the story and campaign are going to go in directions you had never planned for. And I think, in my personal opinion, that makes it more enjoyable. I love being surprised. I love when players come out of nowhere, throw an idea at me, perform an action, roll like stupidly well on a thing that should have been almost impossible, but somehow they managed to pull it off. And, instead of looking at it as wrecking your campaign, you really need to look at it as, wow, that was cool in and of itself. That was pretty wild. That's memorable. I can't believe you rolled, I don't know, 320s in a row, or whatever system you're using, something just ridiculous. Like you just rolled 100, like on the nose, really? That sort of thing. You need to just roll with the punches, be flexible, be willing to improv those situations that you don't have planned. But it's okay to have fallback plans. It's okay to have plan B, plan C, plan D. It's okay to have random tables and charts, perhaps, to help you, to give you ideas on the fly. Vornheim, a complete city kit, written by Zach S., is designed to run city campaigns on the fly. That's its whole purpose. So I recommend that if you are running a city campaign. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question here, so maybe I should refocus. Okay, let's talk about convention games. Convention games I run once a year, sometimes twice if I get to another convention. But they're a little bit different because you have a beginning time and end time. And they tend to be more linear. For good or ill, that's how they tend to be. They don't have to be, but they can be. I found that the easiest convention games to run are dungeon crawl encounters and stories, because there's limited options. They can go left, straight, or right. Or they can go down to the tunnel or not. Those are their choices. But city games and other things are a little bit more complicated. I think a lot of times too, players at conventions are more willing to go along with the flow. I've heard several GMs that they even make fun of it themselves. Like, well, okay, here's the railroad tracks. If you guys want to finish this adventure the way it's published, this is the way we want to go. And it doesn't have to be that way, but I think players understand. Okay, we only have 4 hours. Let's enjoy the module for what it is and have fun. But I tend to be, as a player, one of those people that comes up with zany, off-the-wall ideas, sometimes chaotic, sometimes silly ideas that I just want to attempt to see what happens. I just want to engage the setting, engage the system, and see what the consequences are. And a lot of times I enjoy tragic consequences too. I think I'm kind of strange in that regard. I don't care if... Well, I do care if my character has tragic things happen to them, but I enjoy that flavor, the tragic flavor of those situations. I don't know. So what do you do at a convention, perhaps, like when you're running a thing and people are going all the wrong directions, or splitting up and going through different directions? You can do the sort of out of character, person to person kind of thing and say, hey guys, okay, here's what the module says. Would you be willing to just go this way? Or, if you go that way, you do realize you're not going to be experiencing the module for what it is. But again, I don't really like that. I have no problem running a module and maybe only 25% of the module comes out in the session. I have no problem with people doing other things. But again, we'll go back to that city thing. If they don't stop the cultists, then half the town or half the city is going to die from a necromantic plague. And that's the consequence. That is the end of that module. That is the end of that one-shot. They not necessarily failed, but they didn't stop the bad thing from happening. but maybe they're characters that don't really give a shit. Maybe they're like I don't know, just selfish characters that are like, well, there's this plague that's gonna be out there. Let's get the hell out of here. I don't want to get this necromantic plague. I don't want to get like Mordenkainen's drippy crotch rot. I think was the thing mentioned in Matthew's recent video with Andre and Brady. Maybe that's the necromantic plague. You basically drip out of your nether regions until you die. So, not a very pleasant way to go out. But yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if this is really answering your question. Some things you can do also perhaps are to have things in game that are tough. Maybe the plot of the adventure is actually the easiest way, and there are more difficult ways to go about it. You just have to figure out what those can be. What's the goal of it? What are they trying to stop? I mean, let's say your module starts out at an inn, and the big idea of the adventure is that you're supposed to get hired on by these two wizards and go investigate a beholder lair. I've actually, ran an adventure like that. Eye of Pain by TSR. Let's say that they just say no. Well, right then and there, whatever module you have, might as well just go out the door, because it's going to be a tavern brawl, in-town adventure, whatever. But I don't know. I think a GM needs to be prepared to completely improv an entire session. I think they need to have those skills. But if you're new, you don't have those skills necessarily. And it's tough, but you just have to put in time. You have to get experience. You have to be there in the trenches and have terrible games sometimes, like games that you can learn from, experiences you can learn from. Don't be afraid either to get player feedback sometimes in the middle of a session. Maybe you take a break and ask them, okay, guys, well, this isn't going the way I thought. Are you guys having fun? What's going on? And just communicate with them, see if they want to perhaps get closer to the module. Does it bug them if you're just running an improv session? Those sorts of things. But again, with all my videos lately, I've been trying to throw it out there to everybody else. How would you, as a GM, get players back on track? Do you have hard encounters that they need to run away from? I don't know. Like I said, I tend to be a GM that lets things happen. I like decisions from the players and the player characters, but it's all about consequences too. If you let them do whatever the hell they want, which I usually do, there are going to be consequences. They burn down the orphanage, the whole freaking city, if they know about it, is going to come after them. They're going to be wanted dead or alive, that sort of thing. So do not be afraid to have consequences come in your game. You might even have some players that, whine and bitch about it. Like, what do you mean the city guard's after us? It's like, well, you just killed this guy in the middle of, Market Square. And there was 15 witnesses, and they all went to the authorities. I didn't make you guys do that. You guys, that's all on you. That is a consequence of that action. Or, maybe someone has a business in that town. They run on the side when they're not adventuring, and maybe it gets broken into by the authorities and everything gets taken, and that's his fine for whatever crime he commits. Maybe his license is revoked. Don't forget about consequences. Consequences, they can be good. They do something good, they have a good consequence. Or they ignore things, and things just progress as they normally would if the players had no input at all. So yeah, how would you deal with this situation? I'll put a link to the video below that this is a response to, and perhaps other people out there can have a more concrete answer to this question. All right, thanks a lot, guys.